They laughed at my autistic son for walking alone at the mall. Now they ask to take pictures with him. I never thought that a simple walk through the mall would become the moment that changed everything for my son Lucas and our entire family. My name is Maria. I'm 38 years old, and I'm the mother of Lucas, a 14-year-old boy with autism spectrum disorder. What happened that Saturday afternoon not only transformed how people see my son, but also how Lucas sees himself. Before I continue this story that still gives me chills when I remember it, if you believe that our differences can be our greatest strengths, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories about overcoming challenges and celebrating neurodiversity. It was a typical Saturday morning when Lucas asked me something that surprised me. "Mom, can I walk to the electronics store alone?" He had been fascinated by computers since he was 7, and the mall near our house had become his favorite place to observe the latest technology. For most parents, this would be a normal request, but for me, it represented a huge step. Lucas had been diagnosed with autism when he was 5 years old. Since then, our lives had been filled with therapies, adaptation strategies, and unfortunately, many judgmental looks from people who didn't understand his condition. Lucas had difficulty with social interactions, was extremely sensitive to loud sounds, and had very specific interests, mainly everything related to technology and computer programming. That particular Saturday, Lucas seemed more confident than usual. He had been working with his therapist on independent skills, and we had been practicing short trips to familiar places. The mall was only 3 blocks from our house, and Lucas knew every store, every corridor, every sound that place made. "Are you sure you feel ready, sweetheart?" I asked, trying to hide my anxiety. Lucas looked at me with those intense brown eyes, the same ones that seemed to see the world differently than everyone else. "I'm ready, Mom. I know exactly where to go, and I have my phone if I need anything," he replied in that methodical way he had of speaking, always choosing his words carefully. I decided to trust him. We agreed that he would go to the electronics store, stay there for exactly 30 minutes, and then come back. I would wait for him at the food court, where I could see the main corridor and feel calmer. Lucas left walking with that characteristic gait of his, a bit mechanical but determined. I watched him until he disappeared around the corner, feeling a mixture of pride and nervousness that only mothers of neurodivergent children can understand. What I didn't know was that this simple walk would become something much bigger than either of us imagined. 20 minutes later, my phone started ringing. It was Mrs. Santos, the manager of the electronics store where Lucas had gone. My heart immediately raced, thinking something had happened. "Mrs. Maria? This is about your son Lucas. Could you come to the store, please?" Her voice sounded urgent, and I immediately thought the worst. I ran through the mall corridors, my mind racing with possibilities. Had Lucas had a sensory overload? Had someone said something inappropriate to him? When I arrived at the store, I found a crowd of people gathered around something, and my heart stopped. There, in the center of the crowd, was Lucas, but he wasn't in distress. He was sitting in front of a computer, his fingers flying over the keyboard with an almost hypnotic precision. On the screen, I could see lines of code appearing and disappearing at an incredible speed. "Mrs. Maria," Mrs. Santos approached me, her voice now full of excitement. "Your son just did something incredible. Our main computer system crashed about 15 minutes ago, and we were desperate. The technical support said it would take hours to fix, and we were about to lose thousands of dollars in sales." I looked at Lucas, who seemed completely absorbed in his work, oblivious to the crowd around him. "What happened?" I asked, still trying to understand the situation. "Your son noticed the problem and offered to help. At first, we hesitated, no offense, but he's just a teenager. But then he started explaining what was wrong with the system in technical terms that even our IT guy didn't fully understand. We decided to let him try and, well, see for yourself." At that moment, Lucas looked up from the screen and said in his calm voice, "Done. The system is back online, and I've also optimized some processes that were slowing down the inventory. It should work 23% faster now." The crowd erupted in applause, and I saw Lucas blush slightly. He had never been comfortable with too much attention, but there was something different in his expression. For the first time, I saw him truly proud of himself. Mrs. Santos turned to me with an expression of amazement. Mrs. Maria, your son is a genius. What he did in 20 minutes would have taken our technical team hours, maybe days, to figure out. But the story doesn't end there. As news of what Lucas had done spread through the mall, something beautiful began to happen. People who had previously looked at my son with curiosity or discomfort now approached with genuine admiration. Mr. Roberto, who owned the jewelry store and had always seemed uncomfortable when Lucas passed by his shop, came up to us. "I owe you an apology," he said, looking directly at Lucas. "I never took the time to understand, and I judged based on appearances. What you did today shows that we all have incredible gifts, just in different ways." Lucas looked at him with that direct way he had and simply said, "Thank you. I like solving problems. It makes sense to me when other things don't." Within an hour, the manager of the entire mall had come to meet Lucas. "Young man, I've heard about what you did at the electronics store. We've been having problems with our Wi-Fi system throughout the mall for months. Our technical team says it's a complex issue that might require a complete overhaul of the infrastructure. Would you be willing to take a look?" I was about to say that we needed to go home, that Lucas had already done enough for one day, but my son looked at me with those eyes full of determination. "Mom, can I help them? I think I know what the problem might be." For the next 2 hours, I watched my son work with a confidence I had never seen before. He moved through the mall with a completely different posture. No longer the insecure boy who avoided eye contact, but a young professional who knew exactly what he was doing. Lucas didn't just fix the Wi-Fi system, he revolutionized it. He identified bottlenecks that had been causing slow connections, optimized the signal distribution, and even created a monitoring system that would alert the technical team to potential problems before they became critical. When he finished, the mall manager was so impressed that he offered Lucas a part-time consulting position. "I've never seen anyone understand our technological infrastructure so quickly and completely," he said. "You have a gift that this world needs." But what moved me most wasn't the job offer or the technical recognition. It was seeing how the people around us began to interact with Lucas differently. The store employees who had previously avoided him now greeted him with genuine smiles. The security guards who once watched him with suspicion now waved friendly hellos. That afternoon, as we walked back through the mall, something incredible happened. A group of teenagers who had previously whispered and pointed at Lucas when they saw him now approached respectfully. "Excuse me," said one of them, a girl who couldn't have been more than 16. "Are you the guy who fixed the computer systems? That was amazing. Could we take a picture with you?" Lucas looked at me uncertainly. He had never been asked for a photo before, except by family members. I nodded encouragingly and he agreed. As the photo was being taken, the girl said, I also have learning difficulties. Seeing what you did today made me realize that maybe my differences aren't limitations, but just different ways of seeing the world." Lucas smiled, one of those rare, genuine smiles that lit up his entire face. "Everyone has different ways of thinking," he said. "Mine just happens to be good with computers." On the way home, Lucas was quieter than usual, but it was a different kind of quiet. It wasn't the withdrawn silence he often fell into when he felt overwhelmed, but a thoughtful, reflective silence. "Mom," he said as we were almost home. Today I felt normal for the first time. I stopped walking and looked at him. "Sweetheart, you've always been normal. You're just Lucas, and Lucas is perfect exactly as he is." He shook his head. "I don't mean normal like everyone else. I mean normal like I belong somewhere. Like I have something important to offer." Those words broke my heart and filled it with joy at the same time. For years, I had watched my son struggle with a world that didn't always understand him. And in one afternoon, he had not only found his place in that world, but had also shown everyone around him the value of neurodiversity. The following week, Lucas started working as a technology consultant for the mall. What began as a simple walk to the electronics store turned into a career opportunity that no one, including myself, could have imagined. But the most important change wasn't professional. It was personal. Lucas began walking taller, speaking with more confidence, and most importantly, he began seeing himself not as someone with limitations, but as someone with unique abilities. The mall became a completely different place for us. Store employees greeted Lucas by name, customers approached him for help with their electronic devices, and other parents of neurodivergent children began seeking me out to share their own stories and challenges. Mrs. Santos from the electronics store told me something that made me cry with emotion. "Your son didn't just fix our computers that day. He fixed our understanding of what it means to be different. Now, when I see a child who behaves differently, I don't see problems. I see possibilities." 3 months later, Lucas was invited to speak at a conference about autism and technology. Standing on that stage, speaking to an audience of hundreds of people, he said something that summarized everything we had learned. "For years, I thought my autism was something that made me wrong. I thought my intense interests, my difficulty with social interactions, and my different way of seeing the world were problems to be fixed. But what I discovered is that these aren't defects, they're features. They're what make me able to see solutions that others can't see, to focus on details that others miss, and to think in ways that can solve complex problems." The audience gave him a standing ovation, and I saw tears in many eyes. But what moved me most was seeing my son, who had once been afraid to speak to a store clerk, now inspiring hundreds of people with his story. Today, Lucas is 16 years old and runs his own technology consulting business. He has helped dozens of companies solve complex problems, and more importantly, he has become an advocate for autism awareness and acceptance. The mall where it all began has become a symbol of inclusion in our community. They created a program called Different Abilities, Same Dreams, that provides opportunities for young people with various conditions to showcase their unique talents. But the most beautiful part of this story isn't the professional success or public recognition. It's the transformation that happened in Lucas himself. The boy who once felt ashamed of his differences now celebrates them. The teenager who avoided eye contact now speaks confidently to anyone who will listen about the importance of neurodiversity. Last week, we returned to that same mall and something wonderful happened. A mother approached us with her 8-year-old son, who had recently been diagnosed with autism. "Excuse me," she said, her voice full of emotion. "Are you Lucas? My son Diego has heard about you, and he wanted to meet you. He's been feeling very sad since his diagnosis, and I thought maybe—" Lucas immediately knelt down to Diego's level, something he had learned to do during his many interactions with younger children. "Hi, Diego. I heard you like computers too. Want to see something cool?" For the next 20 minutes, I watched Lucas patiently show Diego some basic programming concepts on his tablet. The little boy's eyes lit up with the same intense interest I had seen in Lucas at that age. "You know, Diego," Lucas said as they finished, "being autistic isn't something wrong with us. It's just our brain's way of being special. And special brains can do amazing things." Diego hugged Lucas tightly, something that surprised me, as children with autism often have difficulty with physical contact. But Lucas hugged him back, and I saw in that moment the full circle of acceptance and understanding. As we walked away, Diego's mother had tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she said. "You've given my son something I couldn't give him, hope that he can be proud of who he is." That's when I realized that what happened in that mall wasn't just about Lucas finding his place in the world. It was about the world learning to make space for people like Lucas, people who see things differently, who think in unique ways, and who have gifts that we're only beginning to understand. Today, every time we pass by that mall, I remember that Saturday afternoon that changed everything. I remember the people who laughed at my son for walking differently, talking differently, seeing the world differently. And I smile, knowing that those same people now understand that different doesn't mean less. It means unique, valuable, and necessary. Lucas taught me that as parents of neurodivergent children, our job isn't to make our children fit into the world as it is, but to help the world expand to accommodate the beauty of neurodiversity. And sometimes all it takes is one moment, one opportunity, one person willing to see beyond the surface, to change everything. The mall where Lucas once felt like an outsider now displays a plaque near the electronics store that reads, "In recognition of Lucas Silva, who taught us that genius comes in many forms, and that our differences are our greatest strengths." But for me, the most important recognition isn't written on any plaque. It's in my son's smile when he walks through those same corridors, no longer hiding who he is, but celebrating it. It's in the confidence with which he approaches each new challenge, knowing that his unique way of seeing the world is exactly what makes him extraordinary. The boy who was once laughed at for being different is now asked for photos because he's different. And that difference, which once seemed like a barrier, became the bridge that connected him to his purpose, his community, and most importantly, to himself.